Pompey Sound, your hourly update from Fratton Park, sponsored by Piglet's Pantry, the home of award-winning and handmade food on the South Coast.
John Mousinho's looking to find talent abroad, and many say it's easy to see why. He says, the club's already started branching out, particularly in Australia, where we've brought in players like Yengi, Farrell, Matthews and young Waddingham from the A-League. We've also picked up Kamara from Dortmund and keeper Schmid from Austria. Preston's success with overseas signings is hard to ignore. Take Mads Frokjar, he's been lighting up the championship since coming in from Denmark 2 years back. His compatriot Emil Rees has been banging them in this season too. Then there's Osmajic from Montenegro who, despite some controversy, knows where the net is, and who could forget Thord Arsen, the Icelandic midfielder scored against us. It's clear Mousinho wants to cast the net wide when looking for new faces.
And we don't care. They don't have to be called Harry Arbuthnot from round the corner. If we can't pronounce their name straight away, we'll practice it a little bit, or else we'll refer to him as the lad from Sarajevo, or wherever. We just don't mind, especially if it's a bargain. Especially if we're paying 300,000, 400,000 for somebody who, if his name was Harry Arbuthnot from round the corner, and had been on Arsenal's books, would cost us 2.5 million. Because we're getting a good player for an awful lot less money. And we don't want to spend money. We shouldn't want to spend other people's money. It's a strange, a curious arrogance to be able to say to an elderly man who, OK, is very rich, I want you to spend £10 million on a person, or £20 million on a person. That's the only thing that I will tolerate, is you writing out large cheques of your own money, which you've been doing for the last 6 or 7 years, to great effect, but I want more. I want you to spend more money on something that is not as substantial as infrastructure and real estate, which is what the AUSSIES have been largely spending their money on since they arrived, and doing a good job with it. Now's the time to concentrate on what goes on the pitch. But you still don't have to spend 20, 30, 40 million pounds in order to build a team that can do what we all suspect they're planning on doing next season, which is to be a solid mid-table championship side. All part of the build, the slow build towards the target, which is definitely Premier League football. 2, 3, at worst 4 seasons from now, we will be either there or champions and on our way there, or winning our playoffs and getting there that way. That's the plan. We're dealing with owners who have long to medium term plans. We should learn to like it and trust them to deliver it, because all the signs are they simply will.
The internet is coming alive with calls for Pompey's owner Michael Eisner to dig deep and spend big during the upcoming transfer window. The demands are not limited to social media, they are being made by numerous correspondents to internet football news agencies. Those who remain confident that the AUSSIES and John Mousinho along with his team will once again get it right when it comes to spending only what is necessary to achieve predetermined targets, find themselves constantly reminding others of the story of Hull City last season. The Tigers brought a disastrous season upon themselves, largely through the urgency with which they sought promotion to the Premier League. Frantic managerial merry-go-rounds, coupled with a £20 million budget being made available to a coach who didn't last long enough to get anything out of his purchases, and culminated in Hull surviving in the Championship only by goal difference. The crystal-clear message that spending money big time does not always guarantee success seems lost on keyboard warriors, bedroom journalists and unpaid unsung pundits. Reading between the lines of the things that are being released to the press, Pompey will be introducing some new faces for the coming season, but it's unlikely that any household names will be getting their own locker in the Pompey changing room. All the smoke signals point towards Pompey targeting spending next season in or around 10th place, as the programme to rehabilitate Pompey as a strong championship unit matures. Considering that only a few years ago Pompey were on the point of going bust and ceasing to exist, becoming a solid championship club is high ambition indeed, say the true faithful.
Yeah, well said, AI news person. Absolutely spot on. And of course, we can't help but think of Abu Kamara when we think about Hull and what a rotten season they had, and therefore what a rotten season that excellent young man has probably had, playing for a team who must have promised him a spectacular season, must have said, look, we're spending 20 million quid. Quarter of that's on you. We're going to challenge. You're going to have a really exciting season looking down at the rest of the league, because we're going places and we're going to achieve. And we've got the money, the money, the money and the money. And we're going to spend it and spend it and spend it. And therefore, we're going to at least make the playoffs, or at least threaten the playoffs big time. And it so didn't happen. It so didn't happen. And poor old Abu Kamara, who made himself such a reputation in our championship, in our title-winning season, the season before last, he was possibly, well, he was to that team what Josh Murphy is to the current team. He was that good. And we nurtured him because he was a bit unsure of himself when he arrived. But he grew and he grew. We helped him grow. Our club helped him grow. Our team fed his confidence. And you almost couldn't get the ball off him towards the end of that season. And then, of course, money talked. We weren't going to pay 4 million for him. What would we have paid for him? I'm asking you that question. I'm not going to try and answer it myself. But what would you have paid for him if you were Michael Eisner? Would Michael Eisner have paid $750,000? $1 million? Bearing in mind, we paid more than $1 million for Matthews from Australia. Huge investment. Fingers crossed on that one. Player who could play in the Premier League. He'll only be 24 if it takes the season after next, which it might. Seems to many that that's the way Pompey are working. Building a solid young side who in 2 or 3 years' time will be right at the height of their powers. Obviously, they'll need some support from people being brought in, but we're going to build from scratch the backbone of a Premier League side that's going to threaten everybody who comes to Fratton Park. So, are we going to get Kamara back? They'd have to knock him down from the 4 million they're supposed to have spent on him. And by the way, that 4 million didn't go straight into Norwich's pocket. That would have been like, 2 million initially up front, and then another million if so-and-so happens, and then another. And then if they sell him on, even if it's at a loss to them, then Norwich will probably get something of that transfer fee. That's how complex these contracts are nowadays. We all know that. And that's why it's very difficult to work out how a player is judged from whatever his undisclosed transfer fee is estimated to be. However, could we get him back for around about $1 million? It's not a lot of money to the Eisners. Lots of Pompey fans say to me, it's still a lot of money. And they're careful with their money. They're sensible with their money. And we're going places with them now. Got a lovely new but retro-looking stadium, a training ground, a media centre, all set for the Premier League. Maybe a little bit of rebuilding what's going on in the north, and a walkway from the station. And they'll do that. And they'll do that. And they'll have that ready for day one of Pompey's return to the Premier League. There's no doubt about it. Stay fit, stay healthy. But you won't have to do it for 20 years. More like 20 to 24 months, I'd say. Will Kamara be part of it? He could live in the Premier League under the right circumstances, with the right club and with the right manager, head coach. Yeah.
When Newcastle loaned Isaac Hayden to Pompey, his parent club, the player himself, and in all probability Pompey too, hoped that he would become a fixture in the starting lineup. His credentials were impeccable, and he arrived at a point in time when Pompey needed strength and experience, as well as skill and ability in midfield. As it turned out, Hayden only managed 17 appearances for Pompey, a statistic he is believed to find frustrating. However, having played his part in keeping Pompey in the Championship, all the indications are that Pompey would have liked to have retained his services, but it's not going to happen. Since Hayden is guaranteed not to be a part of Newcastle's future plans, it seems clear that he is looking to go elsewhere, either on loan, with his contract with Newcastle having one more year to run, or to be sold to the highest bidder. His decision at a time when Pompey's midfield resources are starting to look decidedly skimpy is a blow. Pompey fans can be reassured that plans are in place to strengthen midfield both in defensive positions and in attacking positions, and can look forward to an exhilarating transfer window.
He's a good player, isn't he? But he lost out to Dozzell. For whatever reason. Well, I mean, it's a value judgment whether you think that Dozzell was necessarily a better pick than him, and the manager seemed to think so on a number of occasions. And you wonder what it did for his own self-esteem, that there he is from a Premier League club, a player with Premier League-ness about him, losing out to a player who was rejected by QPR. So that would have been a challenge for him psychologically, and he seems like a very straight up and down guy who can deal with things like that. That's football. Happens everywhere, all over the place, no matter who you are. Eventually, someone comes along who's younger and better, albeit marginally younger, and arguably better. It can be very hurtful and frustrating and difficult to deal with, and it may well be that he's simply got a bit of a cob with Pompey, if you know what that phrase means. I have no idea. You have no idea. No one has any idea. He might not have any idea himself. But he has decided not to rejoin Pompey, it seems. That might be wrong. That's what we hear. He has decided that he would like to ply his trade, as they say, elsewhere. And there could be occasions in the coming season when we will miss being able to call up a guy who can do what he does, which is to dominate, because he's a dominant footballer. He's a strong footballer. He's a presence on the pitch. You know he's coming in behind you, and it's going to be a tackle when it's him. And we need 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 players like that who dominate the 50-50s. He does more than that, of course, because he's a very talented, very capable footballer, useful at set pieces, of course, being 6'2", which is not to be sneezed at. However, he's off, and he will be, like so many players who have done a job for us, missed for a while, and then, because this is how it works, sadly, forgotten.